So the first thing I gotta do before I get this motor into the car is I gotta break it down a little bit. Obviously, it's completely stock how it came out of an Acura, whatever front wheel drive car, I'm sure. So some things will have to be flopped around to make this work. So I'll start by taking off a lot of the plastics, probably the intake manifold, the coil packs, the exhaust manifolds. I know they have to be reversed, things like that. Also, I'm trying to make it lighter to get it onto my engine stand. I don't have a cherry picker. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but we'll see how this goes. So I've started to break this motor down just a little bit. I've got the upper intake manifold off, and as well as the harness off the injectors and the coil packs. Today I'll probably try and get that harness completely off to get it ready for the swap. I know that the exhaust manifolds and the valve covers will be swapping sides, and that's purely for clearance from the steering shaft, and with the oil cap on the valve covers, being able to open it when it's not located on the brakes. So that's the reason for swapping that. So I'll be finishing that up today and trying to get it that much closer to getting bolted to the car. So since this motor is changing from transverse to longitudinal, the overall goal is to get this intake manifold flipped around so that the throttle body is on the front of the engine. And what that means is taking this intake off and the fuel rails, and we still want the fuel rails to go this direction because we will be able to plumb our original 944 fuel line into the original fuel pressure regulator, original to the Honda motor. But I'll have to swap this guy around. I've already swapped the valve covers, and this is so that we can access the oil cap. Otherwise, it was gonna be located under the brake master cylinder. I'm gonna have to do a little snip here in this plastic timing cover here. Not a big deal, it's just really a wire loom. So I'll do little snips here in the future. I'm not tightening everything down because everything needs new gaskets. I'm just kind of flipping it right now just to see what I need to do. I already swapped the exhaust manifolds, and this is now going to be the driver's side. This was the passenger side, and the kit comes with this really cool mounting flange for the exhaust, and you can see that it's got this little notch here and these new bolt holes, which does not align with the original flange. And the reason that is because you just need to nip a little corner out of that sucker and put a new hole in there to be able to get your steering shaft to clear, and you can still use your original steering shaft from the 944. So real simple solution, and I'm glad I don't have to make tubular headers or anything crazy like that. So at this point, I've undressed the motor a little bit. I've taken the upper intake manifold off. I've taken the fuel injection harness off, as well as some of the bracketry that I know I'm not going to need. And before I go any further and really start to dig into flipping the intake manifold and things like that, I want to go ahead and do the timing belt. It's very inexpensive, and one thing I really like more about this Acura motor is that doing the timing belt is very simple. There's timing marks on the cam gears as well as the crank sprocket. And I know with the 944, I never did the timing belt myself. I wasn't comfortable with it. I know about how it had to be done, and you had to have specific cam sprocket tools, and they're eccentric cam lobes on the sprockets themselves. Just stupid stuff like that. I don't like taking a chance with the motor that's that expensive. But with this, it's very simple. I've done a lot of Japanese timing belts, and they're really straightforward. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the timing belt. And then after that, I'll be notching this little wire loom in the timing cover so that the valve cover can sit with this breather, having access right out the front. Just a couple simple things like that before I go any further. One. So today's job is going to be replacing the timing belt as well as the water pump. I've gone ahead and taken off the top timing covers. I've made some marks. Now, I couldn't get the crank pulley off with my impact gun. It didn't have enough ugga-dugga strength. So I had to go out and purchase some bolts for the back of the crank here, and just used a pry bar to brace it against the motor stand so I could break that crank pulley loose. So I got a head start on that. I'm just going to do some quick disassembly here. This is much easier than the Porsche timing belt replacement. It's only single-sided, and there are really simple marks on the cam pulleys instead of using eccentric tensioners like the Porsche. All right, so the reason I pulled this crank sprocket off, this is located behind the crank harmonic balancer, is because I'm going to be using an aftermarket computer system to run this car, a micro squirt or a mega squirt. And for those systems to work, they have to have a crank trigger. And I know only from watching other people's videos that you have to shave one of these teeth off for it to have a place for the trigger to pick up. So I'm going to do that. But the other reason is I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to replace the front and rear crank seal, but obviously we can only replace this seal with this pulley off. Now we've got this modified crank pulley gear, chopped off that tooth that was at 11 o'clock. That's what everyone's saying to do. So I'll be able to put this guy